The air crackles with a raw electric energy. It is January 1959. The streets of Havana, once shadowed by fear, are now flooded with a tidal wave of jubilant sound. Music pours from every open window, a symphony of hope and liberation that mingles with the roaring shouts of a people reborn. Flags, brilliant in the Caribbean sun, wave like 1,000 synchronized banners of victory. Soldiers in dusty fatigues, civilians in their Sunday best stand shoulder to shoulder, their faces etched with a mixture of disbelief and profound relief. Into this swirling vortex of human emotion, a young leader walks, his presence cutting a path through the adoring crowd. He smiles, a gesture that seems to hold both the weight of the past and the promise of the future. He speaks, and his voice, carried over the din, commands absolute attention. The people cheer, their voices rising as one. This man is Fidel Castro. He is about to change Cuba, countless lives, and the very nature of revolution. Before the revolutionary, there was the student. Before the commander, there was the advocate. Fidel Alejandro Castro Ruz was born in 1926, the son of a wealthy landowner, and grew up on a sprawling sugar plantation in Holguin. Privilege gave him access to education few Cubans knew. He was sent to the finest Jesuit schools and later studied law at the University of Havana. There, in politically charged halls, the seeds of revolution were sown. He devoured history, philosophy, and political theory. He encountered vibrant debates on nationalism, social justice, and inequality. He saw the chasm between the wealthy elite and the impoverished masses. As a young lawyer, he served the poor and disenfranchised. He joined the Orthodox Party, ran for office in 1952. Batista's coup shattered democracy, and Fidel's faith in legal reform. On July 26, the audacious Moncada assault began. His trial became his stage. He defended himself with a fiery, 4-hour speech, later reconstructed as "History will absolve me." He laid out a political program and condemned Batista's injustices. Prison amplified his voice, transforming him into a national figure. Amnestied, he left for exile. In Mexico, he regrouped, assembling a rebel corps. There, he met Ernesto Che Guevara, committed Marxist, guerrilla theorist, moral absolutist. Che became not just a lieutenant, but an ideological kindred spirit. Together they trained, planned, and prepared to return. They trained, planned, and prepared to return. The answers to what drove him were already complex, buried in a legend's making. Charisma, ambition, conviction, a contradictory blend that commanded absolute attention. The journey from exile back to Cuba was fraught with peril and near-mythic hardship. In late November 1956, the leaky yacht Granma departed with 82 men. Storms, low fuel, a late landfall into mangrove swamps. Spotted by Batista's forces, the group was decimated. A handful escaped to the Sierra: Fidel, Raúl, Che. The revolution began not with a bang, but a near-fatal whisper. Fidel's leadership shone. Calm voice, iron will. They became ghosts in the jungle, living off the land, moving by night, mastering concealment. Hit-and-run tactics seized weapons and supplies. Each small victory recruited more. Dire peasants disillusioned with the rural guard joined their cause. They adapted strategies, cultivated a power rooted in popular support, belief, and terrain. Allies were crucial: Che the ideologue and disciplinarian, Raúl the organizer, Fidel the charismatic center. Radio Rebelde and international interviews eroded Batista's legitimacy. By late 1958, the war spread. Army morale crumbled. On January 1, 1959, Batista fled. The path to Havana was open. Crowds filled the streets in euphoria and boundless optimism. Castro promised political freedom, social justice, national dignity, restore the 1940 Constitution, hold elections. Reforms moved fast. Literacy, land redistribution, nationalizations, free healthcare, education expansion. To defend and deepen the revolution, the state was rebuilt quickly. Multi-party promises faded as power consolidated and dissent was suppressed. Unity became paramount. The system tightened around Castro and the Communist Party. U.S. property seizures led to a diplomatic rupture and embargo. By 1960, Cuba pivoted to the Soviet Union and declared the revolution socialist. Cuba, and Castro's trajectory, were fundamentally altered. To grasp the revolution's endurance, we must enter Fidel's psychology. First, a hypnotic charisma, holding crowds for hours. He blended command with compassion, inspiring devotion bordering on religious. Second, unwavering ideological conviction. Marx, Lenin, Marty, synthesized into a justificatory framework. It gave moral certainty and intolerance of dissent. Third, extraordinary strategic resilience, surviving catastrophe, invasion, plots, and post-Soviet collapse. He knew when to be bold, when cautious, when to fight, when to negotiate. He outlasted 10 U.S. presidents, moving with chess master foresight. Fourth, hunger for control, craving loyalty, centralizing decisions for stability and unity. The price, stifled initiative and silenced critical voices. Yes, that was, the core of his psychological portrait. Leading a small island against a superpower was perilous. The Bay of Pigs failed, delivering Castro a propaganda victory. In 1962, Soviet missiles arrived. Castro stood firm in a nuclear standoff. Resolved over his head, it bound Cuba closer to Moscow. Exile opposition grew. Property lost, freedom curtailed, a powerful U.S. lobby demanding a hard line. On island, support mixed with fear as dissent was punished. The embargo bit hard. Soviet aid sustained and entangled the economy. 1991 brought collapse. Cuba endured the special period. Castro adapted to survive, holding power as the world shifted beneath him. Judgment remains contested. As new archives open, narratives evolve. Champions cite healthcare, literacy, international aid. Critics point to prisons, censorship, exodus. Declassified documents and personal papers reveal nuance, sometimes a more aggressive Castro. History is living, revised as new voices emerge. He was driven by ideas, and by a masterful will to power. Idealism intertwined with cold calculus, how to gain power and keep it. For some, an icon of resistance. For others, a symbol of repression and loss. A case study in leadership psychology and the tension between ideals and authoritarian realities. Was Fidel Castro driven by ideology, ambition, or an unshakable belief in revolution? And how did that mindset change the course of history?